Marc Isaacson.
Yeah, Marc Isaason.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you.
It's nice for you to stop in.
Yeah, so
Tell us a little bit about your company, and then let's talk a little bit about the event, the biohacking event.
yeah, so I run this very interesting, what I would call an integrative pharmacy based in Bethesda, Maryland. Been running it 20 years. I got a team approaching 50 people, and we do a couple things. The things that we're really known for is I've got this incredible team that includes like clinical nutritionists and naturopathic doctors and pharmacists. And we really understand biochemistry and specifically biochemistry of the body and foods and nutrients. And we sell about 8,000 different vitamins, minerals, amino acids, kind of the best nutrients and supplements from the best, these practitioner brands and patented ingredients and all that kind of stuff. And we sell that in our physical location that's been around since 1965. And also,
do you sell just in Maryland or nationally?
No, we sell, so we have about, I always say give or take a little bit, half of our business is local, regional. We have people from all over the country that call us in, send us emails, and we have a Shopify, a big web presence where all these products that are in our physical store are also on the on our Shopify website, growing.
That's great.
So here's the thing that I would like to share, or you can then ask me a couple questions I think you'd be interested in.
Sure.
The other part of our business, so that's about 60% of our business, all these nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I'm here at the Biohacking Conference is we biohack at the highest level for the brain and brain chemistry. So
that's why you sparked when I told you about my situation?
Yeah, exactly. So what that means is we run a preset group of labs. So we work with top medical doctors throughout the country for like well over a decade now. And tens of thousands of people have gone through this lab test that looks at neurotransmitters in the brain. Things that people would know would be like serotonin, dopamine, GABA. And then there's this whole brain chemistry process called methylation, which is one nice little test of like 5 biomarkers looks at for a couple $100. And from methylation, people either typically under methylation, over methylation, but it's got a ton of stuff to do with, you can call it biohacking, but you can call it healthy aging, anti-aging. So it's got a ton to do with gene expression, detoxification, inflammation, optimizing the immune system, optimizing cell energy, optimizing recovery.
Do you do labs prior to making these recommendations?
You got to.
Yeah.
Because you can't guess.
Is it all blood work or is it some genetic?
Yeah, great. So 4 markers are blood markers, very traditional kinds of markers that would be in traditional healthcare that you might get like from a lab court from your primary care practitioner. One is a urine test, but it's these markers all together where we can then have a top medical doc or somebody who is trained, that's licensed, state licensed, like a naturopathic doc, look at these results and we can understand precisely where your biochemistry or your brain chemistry is off. So the most interesting thing about the healthcare system right now is anyone that's got brain cognitive function issues, has mental health addiction issues. In our traditional system, nobody tests for brain chemistry imbalances. They diagnose you.
Not even my world-class neurologists have asked us to do that.
Right, world-class. But I can tell you, we've more in common than you think, because I now have a 19-year-old daughter, my youngest daughter, who's at Chapel Hill, that 11 years ago, she had a grand mal seizure.
Wow.
Right.
And never had seizures as a child, just had one.
Zero, never. And all of a sudden, she was diagnosed just like that, totally healthy her whole life. And she was diagnosed with epilepsy.
Epilepsy.
Yeah.
And has she had any since?
The answer is yeah. So wait, let's circle back to that 1 second.
Sorry.
But I want to make sure you understand this testing. So when you test for chemical imbalances in the brain, that really almost nobody does. We only run like, it's shameful, we only run like maybe less than 20,000 of these tests a year when there's 100,000, 100 million people just in the US. Those are only the people that are diagnosed with mental health issues. And
so any mental health issue or any brain issues, we should be doing these tests on everybody.
100%. Because in traditional healthcare, for mental health, what happens is you get diagnosed, you get talk therapy, psychiatrist, psychologist, social worker, all helpful. And a lot of those people get prescription drugs. So they listen, I call it the missing link. They're missing this link of understanding and balancing the brain chemistry. So if you don't balance the brain chemistry, huge missing link.
Sure.
Many people will never recover, never get better. And in the US, the data is very clear. Only 30% of prescription drugs are helpful to people managing the symptoms. Crossover as well is 60% of all those people that
Billion-dollar industries, 30% are helpful.
30% are helpful, that's right. And 60% of all the people in general have side effects from all these brain chemistry meds.
Sure.
Versus when you test for people and you balance the brain chemistry, you're not using chemically created substances. You're only using vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, which are not managing the symptom, which is what prescription drugs do in this case.
Right.
They are the building blocks. People don't even know they're the building blocks of the brain.
Sure.
They're the core raw materials that you need to feed the brain and optimize the brain.
Right.
So when we test, we're not guessing then, and we do something that we call precision nutrient therapy. So we
Like that title.
design just for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think about an individual, whether it is their life, what we call epigenetics, whether it's all their lifestyle data, like the foods they're eating, and if it's prescription drugs or alcohol they're consuming or secondhand smoke or air or water, all those things impact biochemistry. So nobody in the world has the same like lifestyle data as you or me has. 8
Sure.
billion people in the world,
It's impossible.
one of a kind,
Right.
epigenetics, one of a kind biochemistry.
Unique as a fingerprint.
No, exactly. So each of us is one of a kind from a biochemistry perspective.
Yes.
We're one of a kind from a DNA genetic perspective. And all of that stuff means that our brains, so our biochemistry is one of a kind. Ultimately, our brains are one of a kind. So it's crazy when you think about it. In our typical system, all these people sort of get like the same drugs or same therapeutic process,
Right.
when everyone really has to be treated as
Just
one
like
of a
in oncology, I mean, the paradigm is shifting right now, and you and I have the same
precision.
cancer. You can't treat Mark the same way as Sal. It's precision. It's to my DNA. It's to your DNA. I think that we're evolving the last few years in that direction, right? You can't-
100%.
Not everybody's going to get that same chemo drug. They
Right.
shouldn't, nor
Yep.
should they.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is why, like, my personal passion and mission I'm on is to make sure that people understand that we are one of a kind. And we're finally at what I would call this convergence, where we understand genes. We understand labs. We understand biochemistry. We understand all your epigenetic lifestyle influences, again, or a lot of it. And we can do precision nutrient kinds of things. And it's game changing, especially if you're only going to do this precision nutrient therapy. You got to do it for the brain, because the way the brain works is that there are about 20 potential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that you might need for those are the ones that balance different
Or
neurotransmitters.
the levels are off. And,
What?
Or the levels are just happen to be off, and this one needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like the nutrients. So you might have neurotransmitters that are off in balance, and depending exactly like what you're saying, some of those neurotransmitters might need a little of a specific nutrient, vitamin, mineral, amino acid. Some might need more. And when we construct these precision nutrient formulas, we'll take those 20 nutrients that you could use, but we look at the labs, and the labs tell us the specificity of which ones you need. So we design them so there's a unique, one-of-a-kind AM dosing. It's not going to be 20 nutrients, likely to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 different nutrients.
Smart.
Based on what you need. And not just those nutrients, but the dosing of that formula in the AM can totally vary. And then there's certain nutrients that are best delivered to be optimized in the AM. And then there's another group of best specific nutrients and dosing form and dosing level to be optimized in the PM. So when we do this whole approach, we do both a very unique AM dosing for your one-of-a-kind brain and a very unique PM dosing for your one-of-a-kind brain. And the difference in the gap is that 30% on the prescription side, you manage that symptom. In this process, 4 to 6 months of doing this, 80%, you're fixing the root cause. 80% of the people show, I would just call it, because I got to be conservative in saying this, very meaningful results.
That's
And
awesome.
for some, absolutely transformational
Is
results.
it? I'm guessing, like for kids like mine, can you do powdered forms? Those that always
It's
have
all
to be
powders.
pills. It's all
So
powders.
we can
No, 'cause she
we
can't.
capsulate, but we can take those capsules. People do this all the time
You
because we
put it
work with
into a-
tons of kids, and we open them up and they mix them in different things and they just
Perfect.
consume them.
I figured you had
Yeah,
that.
and we also have a process where we can do liquid forms.
You can.
And we can flavor them up and stuff like that.
And
Yeah.
and you're creating a cocktail, right? It
creating
could
a
have
cocktail.
several of those
We're
20
creating a cocktail.
ingredients.
But here, listen, for kids, I will also say this, because now I'll tell you, now I'm going to spin back around because that's a good time. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my daughter. So my daughter, Tess, when she had her seizure activity, when we talk about understanding each person's biochemistry, we're one of a kind. So nutrients absolutely are medicine. And for the brain chemistry, you 100% need these nutrients, and everyone's different. But food is unbelievably medicine as well for all this brain chemistry stuff, for your biochemistry overall.
Of course.
But in my daughter's circumstance, this might be another thing that you would want to consider exploring a little bit, is that it took us 3 years. So now I'm answering your question.
To figure it out.
So for 3 years, my daughter was having seizures every single month. And thank God, luck of the draw. I had a background and had an incredible network all over the country who were people that asked why,
Right.
and had medical doctors and researchers that were really up on all of this convergence and all the clarity and understanding that was taking place with genes and biochemistry. And we were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So 3 years went by and we understood genes to the point where we could then look at my daughter's genes.
Oh, it was a
and
genetic
understand.
variant?
So we did, we looked at variants. And in her case, we ended up looking at two different things. We looked at, which is huge and almost no one's looking at, we looked at her detoxification pathways, because we can now, in effect, like run a score and understand, is your body, you're predisposed or you're pre-genetically disposed to. Some people can detox incredibly well.
Yeah.
Between your genes and biochemistry.
Some people
some
can't.
cannot.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, our biochemistry from generation to generation, basically from everything that I understand, is getting worse, because we've got more toxins in the environment. We've got more genetically modified foods. We got processed foods. Everything that most people really understand.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right,
To say that it's getting worse makes a lot of sense.
So it's getting worse, right? So but the good news is, we can now understand. Unfortunately, most people do have lots of problems with detoxification. My daughter, Tess, who was 8 at the time, like I said, she had impairment in detoxification pathways, which means all of these toxins that are coming in, and about 70% of all toxins come in through the food supply. She was getting totally impacted that way.
So they were building up and neurons were firing the wrong way and we were getting a seizure a month.
And so one level deeper, and I'll finish this little overview story, is that then the question is, what is the toxin? Because there's lots of different toxins that can be impacting you. Environmental stuff, people know heavy metals. They might know that there's food packaging stuff. But here's an area, and maybe even home environmental toxins. Here's an area that a lot of people don't know about. Certain foods are toxic to certain people.
Yep, right.
So in my daughter's case, there's things like oxalates and histamines and nightshade vegetables, whatever. But sulfur is an area that lots of people don't know about, and I didn't know anything about it a decade ago, and nor did our team. But
You said sulfur?
sulfur. So superfoods like broccoli, cauliflower, cruciferous vegetables, eggs, garlic, turmeric, superfoods, they're all sulfur. They have a ton of sulfur in them. My daughter could not break down and process sulfur.
Even the fact that you just mentioned so many good foods, it's just the chemistry of the food happens to have sulfur. Sulfur doesn't agree with my DNA. Bingo bango, you figured that out.
And that becomes a toxin to you. Or there's things like oxalates that are in spinach and nuts like almonds and cashews and beets have that's just another category, oxalates. So I've had 2 kidney stones. So I have a problem. We can understand it now, but I have a problem breaking down oxalates. And because I had that problem, sometimes it's inflammatory to people. Sometimes it impacts your brain. Sometimes it impacts muscles and joints. For a lot of people, it creates kidney stones.
Yeah.
So I had that problem, and I had to rework my diet. around oxalates. My daughter, once we understood she couldn't detox, there's workarounds for that. And her biggest issue was sulfur. And she had a little bit of a problem processing fats. We can understand all this now. We modified her diet, detoxed her. I do not kid you. We got her big thing was eggs, which is huge in sulfur. She eliminated that, and we detoxed a couple different ways: salts, baths, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Seizure activity stopped like immediately after
awesome.
3 years of having seizures.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's all
Figured
this
it out.
crazy stuff that you can do.
Lucky she had a dad that could figure it out.
You got lucky. Whatever.
That's great.
I'm thankful.
Diet.
And that's kind of the story.
And chemistry. I totally agree with you. I totally, read into this whenever I see articles that pertain to this stuff. Makes a lot of sense. She's G2 fed. We have these formulas. We've changed formulas recently, actually, because we were using a keto formula for years.
Oh, how old is your daughter?
She's going to be 10 this year.
She's going to be 10, okay. And
so we were using a keto formula for many, 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 many years.
Because they thought that because keto's heavy in oils or heavy in fat,
right?
And thought that would help the brain.
And we were going no sugar, no carb.
Okay, gotcha.
Nothing.
And
so all keto with a modified formula. There's a few different ingredients. But my point, like a year ago, I was like, Jen, why are we still doing keto? She's having seizures every day. Apparently, it's not working anymore. So my daughter,
you want to hear something crazy? I didn't say this to you. My daughter's seizure activity. So all the traditional docs. Now, I'm not saying, because everyone's one of a kind, so I'm not saying there's a direct tie here at all to your daughter. But I want to be clear that for every single person on the planet, you've got to totally, ideally, understand their biochemistry soup to nuts. Foods and detoxification and nutrient deficiencies and all that kind of stuff. So for my daughter, the keto diet is incredibly recommended by neurologists because maybe which is relevant. There's 30 or 40% of the people or something like that that can do really well on the keto diet in a smaller
it helps a lot of
dosing.
people.
It can be very helpful.
Sure.
My daughter, as I mentioned just in passing, had a problem breaking down fats. It didn't matter if they were keto super fats like MCT oil, olive oil, fish oil. We were giving her those things.
Right.
She couldn't process fats. Her seizure activity went up on a higher fat ketogenic style diet, which was crazy.
It does help millions of people, but and we had honeymoon periods where we like at one point we had like this 3-month like window. This is like 6-7 years ago where seizure free. That was unheard of for us. So there were moments where it works, and then there's moments where certain anti-epileptic medicines work, but then we get right back into this lull of, all right, she had another one today.
She's still having seizures?
Pretty much every day, but it's never grand mal.
Right.
It's always like an absent seizure. It's always, well, it's not. There's like 2 or 3 different versions of it. One's like a gelastic thing where you see her smile and like look away.
Oh, I got you.
One of them's a very sad face and then one of them is like almost like an electrocution moment. That's a painful one. That's the one that hurts the most. But they're all 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
Yes, that's
and
like
thank
a lot of my
God
daughters
she's old enough. She's getting older, and we're able to actually make her smile within minutes. So
I got you.
It's not like it's not ruining the day, therapy wise and activity wise.
And does she have multiple seizures in a day?
She does.
That'd be a lot.
Not every day, but she does. Yeah, usually.
And then you were seizure free for like 3 or 4 months.
We've had these honeymoon periods where it's really, really good. Month here, week here, but it's never been 6 months. It's never been. Yeah, this has been 8 years of dealing with seizures.
Yeah. And did she ever go on any specifically very high dosing of fish oil at all?
It's in the diet right now. We do fish oil every day.
You do?
Yeah.
How much you do? Do you know offhand?
Yeah, we do 5 mLs in the morning.
5 mLs?
Yeah.
No, or is it 5 grams?
No, I go by mLs because I'm thinking syringes. It's liquid. So what would be the equivalent of 5 mLs of liquid?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
I could actually show it to you. Like, I could have my wife like take a picture of it, and I could send.
And has she ever gone deep? So now I'm asking the questions. But has she ever gone deep in looking at her foods?
We have a nutritionist at NYU, and we've modified it several times over the years. I mean, that's part of our team, so we trust their input. Yeah. And we just recently switched from keto, and we went with an all natural liquid blend. So
all natural liquid blend of what?
Yeah.
Still keto related?
no, not keto anymore. So now they were always liquid blends. She has a G tube. So instead of doing a keto blend,
Yes.
now we're doing an all natural blend, which is basically fruits and vegetables blended. You know,
Any foods that she loves that she just eats a lot of?
she doesn't eat.
Oh, she doesn't eat at all.
No,
And is that because can she or she can't or
she can't. Yeah,
she can't?
yeah. We're talking traumatic brain injury,
Oh,
wheelchair, can't eat,
Yes.
G tube fed, can't nonverbal. Yeah, I wish there was a way to communicate. You know, she has a speech therapist that does
Yes.
introduce foods every day.
Yes.
So Jean will tell us she really likes that. She really likes this.
Oh, I got
she
you.
could tell by her expression that specific, attempt, she loved it,
yes, yes.
or she didn't like it.
Right.
So by expression, that's what we have.
But that food is being she's not eating it through her mouth.
She is with a speech
Or you
therapist.
just- oh,
So a
only
speech
for-
therapist will introduce a
just
certain
cer-
type of
right.
yogurt, a certain type of puree, a certain type of, an avocado or something like that. Like something simple, but just a little tip of the spoon,
Yeah.
just to introduce it. That's what the
Yeah.
speech therapist will do, to introduce different foods and tastes. And it's part of their routine every day.
Yeah, I got you. Right, very interesting. And much in terms of taking nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids.
Yeah,
Just
so
basic
the
stuff, or-
formula we make, we put certain vitamins, nutrients. We also do lion's mane powder
Yeah.
into the formula.
Yeah.
We also do, there's a vitamin powder we put into it. Lion's mane we put into it. I also do CBD, THC,
CBD.
oils.
Does that help at all, or that doesn't help at all? So there's
I believe it does.
okay.
I think
help?
without our routine, we could be at 7 seizures, 10 seizures a day.
I got
So
you.
for us to be at 1 or 2 a day, I believe, because we've had bad days. We've had the 15 seizure days.
I got you.
So
Yeah.
for us to be at 1 a day
Because-
or 1 every other day,
Yeah.
for us is normal, but it could be the routine is making it at least better.
Right.
I think
got you.
doing a workup like you're suggesting is certainly supposed to be in the cards.
She's never done something like, has she done a deep dive and looking at her at what I would call a functional medicine type of assessment, which is like either a NutriVal or which is NutriVal, which looks at all these nutrient, vitamin, amino acid levels, or
We
has
do
it been
plenty of labs. We do plenty of
all
looking
Genova,
into
though?
that.
All very traditional.
Traditional, mostly
Genova.
traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have a patient in New York. You'll have them go get specific types of blood work done.
So in New York, we'd have to find the right functional maybe you already have a functional medicine or
On the team,
nutritionist
I don't
in the-
even
in the-
think I do. I've
Yeah.
looked into it before.
Because-
I've worked with therapists that are that, but right now, day to day, no.
or your doc, or you'd have to have a doc to be open to signing off on it, or we could maybe find you somebody. So in New York and New Jersey, those are the only 2 states in the country.
I heard this
where
from somebody
we
yesterday.
cannot, and New York is the toughest out of all of them.
Yeah.
New York and New Jersey are the only 2 states in the country where we cannot order direct, get
Got it.
labs to you.
But if I was in
do.
Florida,
100%.
you could order direct.
If you had an address, if you go visit somebody anywhere,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
100%.
I would love to look into that. Detox, nutrients, brain chemistry. I'm in. I definitely would like to explore that further. This was a great
There you
convo,
go.
man. I appreciate it. If you like stories like this, please like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms.